This one tonight, maintaining Windows. Maintaining Windows, things like running defrags, a lot of stuff that you probably have done. Deleting old files. Uninstalling software that you don't need anymore. Defragmenting the hard drive. So what we want to do is learn how to set up and perform scheduled and preventive tasks for this. A scheduled task is something that happens at a particular time or at a particular event. One of the things that I do, or did do, I don't think we do it anymore, but you can do, is set the machine at home up to where it comes on automatically at 6 o'clock in the morning. After Windows starts, it starts the email Outlook and downloads the email so that by the time you get up and have your coffee, ready to have coffee and read the email, it's already there. So scheduled tasks can be at a particular time. Your antivirus software probably runs at a particular time, Saturday, 3 o'clock in the morning, or whatever else. That's a scheduled task. So scheduled tasks can be at times, can be based on times, or can be based on events that happen. How to prepare for a disaster by keeping good backups of user data and Windows system files. What they're saying here is do a backup. How many people do backups?
I've done them occasionally, but every time I try to go back, like restore, the same thing, restore point?
Yeah. No, restore point's different. Restore point is just the registry. It's not the data. What the restore point will do is go back to some point in time for the registry settings.
Well, every time I try to do that, it never works. But
Yeah, some people say that I have. I've used restore points. I really have not had a lot of trouble with them. A lot of people say that, yeah, they do have. So I guess kind of the judgment's out on restore points. But backup itself is where we're actually backing up the data. How many of you keep pictures on your hard drive? You don't use your computer? You can use your phone. But you back it up, you said. I heard you say back up the phone, because that's where the information that you need is. When you start being a network administrator and you have a server with all sorts of really important documents on it, you're going to back up, I hope. Either that or you better have a current resume. Because that's one of those, what they call, if a hard drive crashes and you don't have a backup, it's one of those things that they call a resume generating event. How to use the commands to manage files and folders using the disk management to manage hard drives. Disk management, the thing that we looked at a little earlier when we created it, so we can do disk management. They've got instructions on how to do those things. When does to use a language other than English, and this one doesn't have instructions. This is the explore part of it, how to install language support. It's not very difficult, but I'd like for you to find the procedure. What that is for. When my son was in high school, he took Spanish, and the Spanish instructor taught him how to make all the special characters of Spanish with the characters on the keyboard. What this does is puts the keyboard support in so that you don't have to do that. It'll automatically make those characters. Then that's for if you're writing a letter, for instance, in another language, and you just want to be able to do those language characters, it's available there.
Like, say when you're typing in Spanish, though, right? Like using your English keyboard.
Yeah, typing in Spanish.
Or Japanese.
Yeah.
Do it corrects the grammar.
No, this is the keyboard. This is not the language package. You'd have to get the language package, and if you did that, you'd have to go get, for instance, Microsoft Office that is the Spanish version before it would check that. Yeah.
Because if you talk like in Spanish like you do in English with the same kind of grammar, it wouldn't make sense at all.
I know, but this is just the keyboard, the language support. It's not the language package. You can't get language packages for these things. Preventive maintenance, alleviate slow computer performance. Like what is it now? They got them the male and the female that last winter were watching the football game and PCmatic.com, and now they're at the florist, whatever else. But Alleviates low computers. Well, there's lots of things that we can do that's built in to help the performance of that. What are you going to do, go online? Great way to get a virus. Tasks, verify critical Windows settings, clean up the hard drive, check drives for errors, and free up hard drive space. One of the tools that I like is CCleaner, which is free. It will go through and do a lot of cleanup for you. The other thing that you do want to do is defrag the hard drive, defragment the hard drive occasionally. You don't have to do it every day, but occasionally defragment the hard drive because they do get fragmented. 3 Windows settings, system protected. What we're going to do is check to be sure that the Windows files haven't been damaged. And it's FS check scan. You're going to scan the files, and it's going to compare it against the database to be sure that the Windows system files are still intact. And then Windows system protected files are ones that you don't want users to use. Windows protected files are hidden from view. You can turn them on if you want to turn them on. So I like to turn them on so that I can see them, but that's just me. You can delete them. If you delete them, you can really cause a mess in the machine. Verify updates and service packs are installed. Windows Update should be set in automatic. When we did that install, we did the recommended as it goes and checks for the Windows updates and automatically installs them. This is probably the single most important thing you can do to protect a Windows machine. The question that I'd like to ask in the security classes, and I'll ask here, is how many times have the hackers been ahead of the updates?
All the time.
One time. Why do people get viruses? Because they don't update.
What was that one time?
Code Red. I believe it was Code Red.
Was that when that one guy sent, like, the...
No,
virus through the...
that was a Melissa virus. If you double-click, if you install something, I can't do anything about that. When there are discrepancies in the operating system and somebody attacks from outside, that's what we're talking about with these things. But if you do, and there have been a number of viruses, if you go, it's kind of like we do all these protections. You know, you put locks on your windows at home. You put a lock on your door, right? If you let the burglar inside, if you open the door and let them inside, those locks don't do you any good. Same thing here. If you go to some place and you run that executable that you don't know where it's from and say, oh yeah, I started to install this virus. Do you want to install it? Sure, go ahead and install this virus for me. Somebody sends you an email and you double click on it. And you get the user account control pops up and says, did you do this? And you say, yes, I did that. Do you want to continue? Yes, I want to continue. And now you just install your virus. Those aren't going to do you a whole lot of good with that. But Anna's virus software hopefully is going to help you with those. It'll do the scans, looks to see if we've done anything that we really didn't want to. Network location set correctly. Clean up the hard drive, delete unneeded files, uninstall, defragment things to get the unnecessary stuff off of the hard drive. Moving files and folders to other drives, different things. What can you do with these things? The directory structure, Windows 7, a profile is created. That's in the user folder. The file that contains all of the information is entuser.dat. It's a data file that is in that folder. Program files, CCOM program files, where Windows by default is going to put the programs. It's a system file. You can put files on other folders or on other drives if you want. When you do a real install, when you're really doing this, one of the recommendations is that you have the operating system on a hard drive and all of your programs on a separate hard drive. For one thing, just like we're doing this upgrade, we could maintain, you wouldn't have all of the links, but it's going to wipe out the C drive. If we have to wipe out the C drive and we have all our programs there, we wipe them out too, the programs and data. If you only have to wipe it out and the operating system's there, then that's all you really have to do. 64-bit, we talked about that, I think, in the other half of this course. 32-bit programs, 64-bit programs are in the program files. The 32-bit programs are in the x.86 programs. X.86. There are two of them in a 32-bit system. One of them for the 32-bit or the 64-bit, and the other one for the 32-bit. Folders, you can read where those are. Nothing really magic about those. Back up the registry, temporary files, offline files. Where do things get stored? It's a nice list. The disk cleanup utility, James said he likes to use that one. That is a good utility. I've always had CCleaner find more things to clean up than the disk utility will. One of the things that it will do for you, though, once you do a service pack, it saves the old files, and the service pack's working fine. You can go in and tell it to take out the service pack backup files. When you take the backup files for the updates away, you can't undo them. But disk cleanup, pictures, defrag the hard drive, and you can do that in the properties, or you can go to the command prompt and type defrag, C:defrag, E:defrag, whatever. There are third-party softwares that you can get to do defrag. Some of them may work a little bit better than the built-in one. Probably not. Two types, the hard disk drives, the magnetic spinning ones, which most of them have, and the solid-state devices have no moving parts. You shouldn't defragment the SSDs. You want to minimize, actually, the number of writes to the SSDs, because that's what causes the failures, is the writing. Huh? They're much faster, yeah, because there's no spinning. We talk about, in the hard drives, we have rotational delay, and we have the latency, the seek time and the rotational latency. You don't have any of that here because it's solid state. It just goes and gets it. They do have algorithms that will move around on the disk where things are stored so that you don't continuously write to the same area, because if you do that, it's going to cause it to fail quicker. They do fail. They are much faster. No moving parts, so we don't have the problem with the hard drives hitting the surface, those kinds of things. We talked about clusters, I think, in the other one, clusters and files. They get fragmented. What we want to do is put them back together as a contiguous file when we do those things. Error checking, what this does is searches for bad sectors. It also compares the directory with where the stuff's actually stored to see if it's compatible, and you can fix errors in this thing. Bad sectors, it'll mark the sectors as bad so that you don't write information in it. It'll try to recover them. Check now, explore, select properties, check now. It can check everything except the C drive. If you do the C drive, the one that Windows is running on, it can't check the one that while Windows is running. It'll do it when the system restarts. Free up space, uninstall programs. I don't think there's anything magic about that. Move the virtual memory paging file. Windows creates a virtual memory, which is disk area that is mapped as memory. By default, it's going to be on the C drive. If you have two hard drives, you want to put it on the other hard drive, because Windows is going to keep coming back to the C drive for parts of the operating system, because it can't get the whole thing in memory at the same time. Pagefile.sys, that's one of those hidden system files that you can't see unless you unhide those files to show them to yourself.
You make a new drive, blah, blah. You could name it.
Mm-hmm.
You can rename the drives, right?
Yeah, you can name them, yeah.
Can you make as many as you want?
Depends on whether you have a dynamic disk or a basic disk. Basic disks, 4. Partitions. You're talking about drive letters, right?
Like you created a new drive?
I created a new drive, but there was a physical drive there.
Yeah, that's what I mean, like, can you keep...
It depends on what you've got. If you've got IDE, how many drives can you have in IDE? 4. You got 2 controllers, you can have 2 drives on each controller. It's going to depend upon the hardware.
But you can copy your hard drive.
You can copy them. You can back them up. Absolutely. Copy them, back them up to a USB drive, something like that. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, in this one, we're going to advanced performance is where we're going to change the location of the page file when you do those things. If you want to delete profiles, it's here, settings. Somebody hadn't logged on for a long time, go ahead and delete the profile. No need keeping it. The thing to be careful about in deleting profiles, if you delete the profile that has that installed Outlook, it has the storage there. The Outlook, by default, the emails are stored in the profile. You can move that, but be careful of those kinds of things. When you get into here, it will give you the option: selected drive, custom size, system manage, whatever you want to do, or no paging file. No paging file can be used if you have a lot of memory, a lot of RAM. But if you don't have a lot of RAM, and I think they say somewhere around 8 or 12 gig, you need to have a page file. You can make it a custom size if you want to control it, or you can let Windows manage it. Occasionally you'll get an error message that says that your virtual memory is getting low. I don't even know why they send that message. Then Windows fixes it. That's the system managed. It'll expand it for you. If you do a fixed size, then it's going to be contiguous. It's never going to become fragmented. You can do that. The recommendation here is that you make the initial size and the final size the same size, so that it's got something that doesn't have to be expanded. It's a single size page file. What this is when Windows runs out of physical RAM, it stores that stuff there. It says, I'm going to need this, and it's called a paging file because it pages memory in and out of there into physical RAM to the hard drive. Backup, it says an extra copy. Backup is a process that transfers makes a copy of the hard drive or whatever we select for the hard drive at some remote or removable location. People will sometimes make backups and put them right beside the machine. If we made backups over in the NOC and left them in the NOC, and somebody drove a truck into the NOC, or there was a fire in the NOC, what happens to our backup? It got destroyed along with everything else.
Like me, I put my backup key. I left it on my keychain.
You left it on your keychain, yeah, well, you probably want to keep it someplace else, because if the backup is for catastrophes, catastrophic destruction of the data when we do those things. Viruses, file corruption, lots of different ways to lose the data themselves, inadvertent formatting, deleting, whatever else. Never trust it to only one media. Make copies of those things. Planning for disaster recovery. You can read that. What it basically says is, what are you going to use, where are you going to store it, how are you going to back it up. You can put it on a removable hard drive, probably not the recommended. Tape is still one of the primary methods to back it up. Actually, replication off-site, internet replication, is a way to do that. And there's a chart, I think, on the Moodle page that has a number of replication places that you can back up to, a number of internet backup locations, if you want to see what they cost.
Isn't that what the cloud is for?
That is, yeah. That's what, when we say off-site, that is the cloud. What does cloud computing mean?
Internet computing?
What is the internet? Where is the cloud?
It's just the internet.
It's the internet. The issue with cloud computing is if you buy space in the cloud, you don't really know where your data is.
Yeah, but you got like an unlimited supply.
Well, you don't have unlimited. You got what you pay for.
Right. So
What if your data happens to get stored in, I don't know, Hong Kong, which is owned by Chinese, right? How safe is your data?
Not at all.
What if it's in one of these places that the government decides that they can take over?
Why?
So,
They recorded everything from Verizon for a year.
yeah. But what if they actually destroyed your stuff? The other issue, who was it that they just shut down? One of the cloud storage because of illegal software. I think it was an Australian company, actually. And I can't remember the name of it. There were a lot of people that had their backups there, legitimate backups. And it wasn't all illegal software. So if you decide to do that, be careful about who it is and where it is. Yeah, LimeWire is a great place to get viruses.
Anything though.
Any peer-to-peer network is.
Any peer-to-peer network is a great way to do that, yeah. Keep the backups, lock them up, because if you don't do that, somebody can restore your backups and get your information that way. If they can get it, that's why you're going to lock it up. Backup the entire Windows volume, the system image. One of the options, you can back up the whole thing. That way, if it crashes, then you can restore the whole thing. It's kind of an advantage. It takes some space in order to do that. Entire hard drive, everything that's there, but it's only good for up to that point. The renew disks, the recovery disks that you get from the manufacturers, when you recover them, they're going to bring you back to the day that you bought the machine. So none of your programs are going to be there. The first thing that they do, and this one will too, first thing it's going to do is wipe out everything that's there. It's going to restore over it. This is the backup and restore.
You don't need a disk for
over. What, to back it up or to restore it? You have to have some place to back it up too.
So you have like a Blu-ray disc?
A Blu-ray, a hard drive, a network location, a Dropbox or something, somebody else, one of those internet providers. I'm not saying don't use them, because there's a lot that are very reputable.
So the manufacturer people will actually send you one?
Yeah, but it's the original. What it really has is Windows on it. You can back it up. You can, no, this is a different thing. If you back it up, you can restore it. When you boot to the Windows CD or DVD, Windows 7 DVD, one of the options at the very front end is to restore the entire computer. You need to have made a backup before you can restore it.
I got another question. On
Okay.
my test, because I knew Windows 7 was DVD thing. On my test, it said the Windows 7 required a DVD drive. I want to say true, but it was really false.
It's true. That's true. It's false. What if I put it on a USB drive?
Well, when they send you
What if I install it across the network?
Well, when they send you the disc, like if you have a Windows 7 disc.
But see now, but you're taking a very narrow thing. If Dell sends you a DVD, yes, you're going to need a DVD player. Kinda. What if you take that disc and move it to a flash drive before you do it, and then you make a bootable flash drive?
Without a DVD player?
You're going to have it someplace, but we're talking about on the machine that you're installing it on.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I guess you're right.
What that question is asking is DVD the only way to install Windows 7? No, it's not.
No, I know it's not.
Let me say yes. No, it's not. Okay. These are the steps to run a backup. Where are you going to put it? You can put it on another machine. You can't use tape for the Windows backup. There are third-party softwares that allow you to do that. The advantage of Windows 7 over some of the prior versions is that you don't have to install Windows in order to install your backup to recover. In Windows XP, if you have a backup and your Windows XP machine fails, the first thing you have to do is install Windows XP, and then you can restore your backup.
Well, that makes sense.
In this one, if you have a backup, when you boot to the media, whatever you're using, flash drive, DVD, one of the options that you'll have is to restore the machine, and you can restore it from whatever media that you put your backup on. So you don't have to install it first. You do in the older versions.
Windows is the actual program.
It's the operating system, the program, yes.
The OS.
Yeah.
So how do you recover your stuff if you don't have to download?
Because you made a backup. Because you made a backup of it. What you're really making is an image of it, and you're restoring that image. If you backed it up, you have it someplace, right?
Yeah.
If you have it someplace, you can restore it, right?
But if you don't have the OS working, then
That's the difference between this version and the other version. It takes the image and copies it to the hard drive. Windows XP, you have to actually install it and run the backup program. It's a different backup program. NT backup is the old one, and this is Windows backup, I think is what they call it. It works differently. The way they get installed works differently, because when you do Windows 7, it copies an image to your hard drive. It uses images. So you can restore that image to your hard drive using the installation media without actually installing it first.
it's always the same with Windows 8.
Yeah. That's just showing that you can restore individual files. The system protection automatically backs up system files and stores them at regular intervals. The restore point is a point in time. The system files, it's supposed to let you go back to some point if it gets corrupted. Before Windows started doing this, there were softwares that allowed you to do that. Go Back, I think, was one of the programs that allowed you to go back, and these are system files registry configurations. What that would allow you to do, there's a couple of things that are kind of interesting thoughts, and you do a restore point when you boot the DVD also. What if you forgot your password? You changed your password and you forgot what you made the new one to.
Use the jumpers.
Use what?
Jumpers.
The jumpers.
On the hard drive.
No. I'm talking about your Windows password.
Call them.
Call them. They don't know. They don't know.
Call them and ask for a new one. It's simple.
A new password?
No, you set your own password.
Would you set your own password?
I'm thinking of the product key.
You think a product key, yeah. So what if you forgot the password? You could boot it if you could make, and James said he hadn't had a lot of luck with the restore point. Set the restore point to before you change the password, you'll get your old password back.
After you get into it. After you get into it.
Yeah, you can actually do a restore point from the media at the start screen.
Yeah.
When you go into the recovery.
Password, do you type in new password?
When you go into the recovery. Now it gives you an old one, then you get into it and you can reset it. I'm sorry, you were saying?
Using command line?
Yeah.
Well, obviously,
Using it, yes.
flat out,
Using a restore.
don't remember your password.
Yeah. The other one, if you get a virus, you can restore it because it won't run it. The viruses, when they get installed on these things, they're only dangerous when they actually get run. Restore points are taken every 24 hours or when you do something significant to the machine. Can use up to 15% of the disk space, and I think that's significant. That's an awful lot of disk space. You can manage how much of the disk space it uses. You can reduce that if you want to.
We need 15 just for disk defragment work.
Yeah, you need 15, and 15% is generally what's considered free space that you need for Windows to work. If you fill up the hard drive, Windows is not real happy. This machine in here, I had to move that around because it's one of those that you make it kind of right, and then it just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. So we had to expand the C drive on it. It's working, seems to be working better now that that has happened. If you don't want restore points, you can turn them off. You don't have to have them. They're handy when you need them, but they're not they're not a necessity. Turn off the system protection. Over here, you can adjust the maximum usage, how much disk space you actually want it to be able to take. Apply to restore point. Those are all kind of the step-by-steps. Managing files, folders using the command prompt. There's some activities to do that when we get there. Partitions, we've done, right? Partitions, have you created partition?
With RAID, right?
Yep, with the RAID, yep, create partition, right?
Oh, that's so complicated. I don't like RAID.
You don't like RAID? You'll love RAID if you're running a server and a hard drive dies and you can keep going.
You only have one file, so it's like an hour or so.
You know what RAID is, though, right?
Just
0, 1, and 5 are the ones that we're concerned about. So
0, 1, and 5, but you can have RAID 15. You can have
yeah, there are other ones that you can do. They all protect data.
3 is supposedly the best one, isn't it?
3 is just a different way that we're used to store the restore information. 1.0 is the most popular one right now. It takes a lot of disk space because the 0 is striping and then 1 is a mirror. So what you do is stripe and then mirror the stripe. 1.0 or 0.1 are very popular. RAID 5 works very, very nicely. RAID 6 is kind of popular. RAID 5 you can lose one hard drive and keep running. And you can put a new one in and rebuild it. RAID 6 you can lose 2 hard drives. 2 hard drives with RAID 6.
What is that one?
It's similar to RAID 5 except that it uses 2 disks for the stripe for the restoration, so that you have 2 sets of data that you can restore from.
So you save it in one hard drive and it mirrors?
No. You have to have. RAID 5 we lose 1 hard drive's worth of storage, right? RAID 6 we're going to lose 2. It's parity. That's what I couldn't think of the parity stripe. You have two sets of parity, so that you can restore 2 hard drives if you need to do that. Sectors we talked about before. Low-level formatting we talked about, and the other one, low-level formatting, is done at the factory. It's the one that creates the sectors for us. We've looked at those. Partitions we talked about. Master boot record, DOS boot record. Talked about those things. How many can you have in a basic disk? You can have up to 4. What this one is an extended partition, and in the extended partition you can have multiple drive letters. It's still a single partition, but you can break it up into multiple drive letters. The C, D's, and the E's. The C and the D are done, format file system. We're going to use NTFS. FAT32 and FAT are available. NTFS is the file system that you should use unless you've got a good reason to use FAT. The good reason was if you're sharing it with a Macintosh, for instance, they can both read FAT. The data.
So Macintosh can't read NTFS?
Can't read NTFS, no.
Is Macintosh and Apple on the certifications?
No.
Wow.
Not that I know of. Huh?
Wow.
You'll have to ask CompTIA that.
Isn't it the richest company in the world? Some people know how to use them.
Some people use Macs. Businesses don't as a general rule. They use them for specialized applications, graphics, for instance. But generally for regular use in a company, you're going to see Windows right now. Now, that may change. When the world of computers first started, Mac was the dominant force. And then Windows eventually overtook it. What's made Apple rich is not their desktop. It's not their laptop. It's their phones, their iPods, and their iPads. There is some use, obviously, of Macs. My son's got a Mac. He loves it. A lot of people like them, but there are a lot more Windows machines, and they say that the desktop is becoming less and less popular just in general, according to the sales data itself. The partitions, again, we talked about these, I think, in the first half. Some of this stuff does overlap from one to the other, and there's no need in beating it to death, and you guys can get on with labs when we do these things. The command prompt can do things with, and some cmd.exe to get to there. Commands to manage files and folders. The standard Windows, the default directory elevated window requires the user to log on as the administrator. If you want an elevated command prompt, you right-click on it, tell it to run as administrator. It'll give you that elevated prompt. If you're not an administrative user, because we saw that one that when we created the first user, they're administrators. When the user account control pops up, you can just say OK. When it pops up here, it's going to ask you for administrator's credentials. You don't actually have to log on, but you do have to provide credentials sometimes if you do something that's administrative. And the command prompt will say, well, now instead of just saying command prompt, we'll say administrator command prompt. That's the way you know it's administrative. Say again? Yeah, you learned that in DOS, but this one, administrator, allows us to make other changes to the more extensive changes to the computer. So if you just run cmd.exe, you're not going to be an administrator. You have to tell it that you want to be an administrator to run it as an administrator. You can read all of that stuff. The DOS stuff, and I know that not everybody's had DOS, have they? So help commands from DOS, make directory, those kinds of things, delete, copy source destination. These are just the commands that go with what goes on. Robocopy is, well, it's a different copy. What it does is copies the permissions along with it. Robocopy actually is the program that the old NT backup used to copy the files from one location to the other. So you can see it's got a number of switches. All of these have a number of switches that go along with it. FAT, I think this is another DOS thing. File allocation table. It's got pointers. What we have is a directory, and the directory points to some starting cluster, which points to the next one, points to the next one, points to the next one, and this one is showing jumps over here from 7 to 22, not contiguous, and that's when you would do a defrag to put them all together. What they do is point one to the other one. This is the end of this one, we'll go to the next one. Well, they have to end with an end of file, which says that the file is done. But what the disk chaining, or the FAT chaining is what they call it, is disk or cluster 4, which is the first place that we put information, the file's bigger than one cluster. Disk or cluster 4 says, hey, the next one that I put information in is in 5. So it goes from 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7, and then we jump to 22, 23, 24, 25, and 25 will say end of file. It's now complete. The end of file marker says this is the end. This is the end of the file. If you don't have the end of file marker, you can't open the file if that cluster gets lost. Defrag takes those separated ones that we had here, because these would be contiguous, one after the other, which makes it convenient, quick for the read-write head to read the data. This one now jumps someplace else. It's kind of like if you're delivering newspapers in an apartment building, and there are 3 or 4 of you, and you've got some apartments on the first floor, and then all of a sudden you jump to the 30th floor, and the elevator's not working. And somebody else has got the second floor here, and all of a sudden they jump to the 20th floor, so not contiguous. It'd be a lot better if you had the first floor, the second floor, the third floor, and just work your way up and then leave. These kind of work the same way. It's better if they're in order, and that's what defragmentation does for us. Disk management to manage hard drives, this is the one that we looked at earlier when we made the hard drive. Actually, we created a partition on an existing hard drive. It was already there. Can manage partitions, create partitions, convert drives from basic to dynamic, create RAIDs, whatever is available to us. Manage the partitions, resize, create, delete partitions, and you can resize in Windows 7 the partitions. You can grow them, but you have to have empty space next to it in order to do that. Try some of those things out as you're doing those. Preparing it, initialize the disk, choose MBR, and those kinds of things. The GPT is for disks that are larger than 2 terabytes, if you have those. And they always say you have to select it. Trust me, it'll select itself. If it's greater than 2 terabytes, that's what it's going to use. To mount a drive, the reason I'm going through some of this stuff fairly quickly, if you take this test right now, you'll have to know some of this stuff, but you do a lot of this in the Windows 7 course. Do a lot more of it in more detail, the disk, and we do more RAID stuff in the server course. This one is just in here. We just wanted to get you kind of what is a RAID, and yes, you can make it. And it wasn't really difficult, was it? You just added the disks. Say I want them to be a RAID, and you add the disks to it. So the language support. This is one of the ones to do a lab for. We kind of talked about that early on. What it does is allows you to use the characters of another language on your keyboard, which makes it convenient. I think if you're taking a language, I've got one of those over here, I think. Let's see. Yeah, English, I'm in English, and this is English and German. So if I go to German, and then let's see what I would. What's the problem now? Do you know where all those special characters are? So what we would need to do, it turned me off, didn't it? German. Now, what do I need to do to get to German? Where's the on-screen keyboard? You go search for it. Where do you think it would be? Start. Accessories. Let's see if I can get to the right place. I'm hung up on administrative tools tonight. Administrative tools. ease of access, and I don't have my German anymore. My German keeps going the wrong direction, doesn't it? On-screen keyboard. Okay, now then, I have the German keyboard here, and I have the German language down here. The special characters, the O with the 2 dots over it, the umlaut in German. The thing that always gets me, I've been there one time and tried to use a keyboard in Europe. You notice that the Y and the Z are in different places. That's the European keyboard. But this has got the German special characters in it, and then all the other stuff over here, Hilfe, I think that's help. Help! Good guess, huh?
Pause is still pause.
Pause is still pause. Does it say what? Drunk?
Trump.
Oh, I switched back to English. It keeps going back on me, huh? No, which druck?
What is that?
I don't know. We'd have to go to a translator, wouldn't we? I really don't know. Go back to English. That's a good idea. Print screen.
Pause is still pause.
Pause is still pause. He likes that.
Some things never change.
Pause, pause works.
So, all Europeans use this?
No, this is German.
German people. No.
Spanish is going to be different.
I say European.
No. Germans are Europeans, but this is German. Do all Europeans speak the same language?
You have a French keyboard.
French keyboard, German keyboard, tag keyboard, Spanish keyboard, they have different special characters. Huh?
They use that euro.
They all got the same money. Yeah, most of them do. Yeah, they use the euro, but that's a fairly recent thing.
Sounds like a pound. It's worth more than $1.
The questions you're looking at me with, when you do the labs, hopefully it'll make a little more sense. But this is some of the basic stuff that you can do to keep Windows running smoothly. So you ready to take a break? Let's take a break.